it's amazing the ideas that could come out of your people when you empower them to give you feedback on what's wrong in the business, what could be improved in the business. It's amazing. And I would say that's probably what my brother and I are most proud of, is that change of empowering our employees or our team members to really take control and be responsible for their areas. We talk about their 20 square feet. They're responsible for the inputs and the outputs of their 20 square feet. And they can make improvements to that all the time. And they do. They make lots and lots and lots of improvements.
Welcome to the Break Free Podcast. I am your host, David Mancella. I have been dedicating this venue to honor people that are serving this world and making it a better place through their organizations. Today we have with us Rob. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, David. It's good to be here.
Rob, for the audience, can you tell me your name, where do you live, and what do you do for a living?
Yeah, so my name is Rob Grand-Lienard, and I live in a town 30 miles east of Dallas called Rockwall, Texas. And I'm the CEO of a mid-sized manufacturing company called Special Products and Manufacturing. And I've been doing that for a number of years.
What type of manufacturing is it?
Yeah, so we have highly sophisticated automated equipment that produces metal fabrication, machining, welding, powder coating or painting, and final assembly. And so that's kind of what we do.
Do you build products for somebody else, or you build your own products?
Correct. We're a contract manufacturer building different products for our clients. We probably have 50 or 60 clients active right now, and building products that range from the oil and gas industry, ATMs, gas pumps or fuel pumps, telecommunications, electronics, various entertainment industry, pharmaceutical industry, medical industry. So it's pretty diverse client base.
That is wonderful. Rob, as I understand, your enterprise is being family owned for a while, right?
That's right. We just celebrated 60 years in business last week. We had a big party outside the plant, bought a big leased a big circus tent, and had about 200 or 300 people attend a big party for our 60th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations. You know, when people start up companies, they don't last for more than 2 years. And look at you, 60 years in the going.
Right. And my brother and I are second generation owners of the business. So our father started it in a 2-car garage, back in 1963, October 1363. And now today we have 3 plants, over 200,000 square feet under roof, and just over 200 employees.
That is beautiful. And what a way to live the American dream and push our country forward. You know, I love doing this podcast because the people that I interview are my heroes. If you look at the economy of USA and Canada and the free world, for that matter, is built on companies like yours. Mid-market companies, small businesses, even a little larger businesses. But, you know, the great majority of employment comes from that. And that's what creates free will, and that's what creates freedom in our societies. And I love it because it's not easy, right? It's not easy to keep a company running that long with all the turmoil, the economics, the catastrophes that happens all the time, right? So I applaud you for that.
That's exactly right. Thank you. COVID was very challenging. I mean, we've had a lot of challenges before, and we've rode through them and done the best that we could, and came out better for it on the other side. Strengthens us.
That's beautiful. How do you navigate? For me, I can think of a big challenge was the exodus of manufacturing to China and other countries.
Yes.
How do you guys survive that?
Man, that's a great question. So there's two things. In the mid 90s, we started to see a lot of manufactured products go offshore. And so we began to automate. We started developing and buying, purchasing equipment and developing the skill sets to run automation. And so that covered us for about 10 to 15 years. It really helped us compete. What we build are enclosures, boxes, and cabinets made out of metal. And so it's very difficult to ship in bulk those overseas. You've got to protect them, number one, because most of them are steel or aluminum. And then number two, it takes a lot of air. So it tends to be very difficult to ship large products like that overseas. So that did help us somewhat, being able to adapt to the automation, and then also being able to have a product or products that our customers bought that were large in size and volume, if you follow what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Now let's look back at your life. I run some businesses, and my main business, I have two of my kids employed already. But I don't know if they want to keep the company going after I retire, So I want to see how your mindset changed into supporting your dad's vision and how that happened. So where were you when you were in high school, finishing high school? What was your mind back then?
Yeah, so my original thought was I was going to get into law enforcement. FBI or law enforcement. And once I got into college, I kind of shuttered that and started to take business classes. Then I could begin to see and connect business classes with what I had witnessed and seen growing up as a child in my father's business. So I was able to connect those dots. And once I was able to, because I worked in the business since I was 9 years old. And so summers and weekends, I worked a lot in the company. So I never was able to connect the dots with business and accounting and purchasing and safety and all those things. And that business, the academics that I took in college began to connect those for me. And then I could see what was going on inside the business. That's when I really got interested in joining my father in the business.
That's beautiful. So you got involved in the company since a very early stage, right?
Yes.
That's beautiful. I tend to do that with my kids too, since they were in junior high. But none of them like computer science, and I run a software company that builds applications for other businesses. But turns out that they are in love with marketing, so now they are both running marketing teams. And the husband of my daughter, my older daughter, he is my VP of IT now, of technology. So I was able to attract them in a way. But like I said, I don't know if this is going to be their cup of tea later on. So right after you graduated college, did you go right into your dad's business, or
I did. He was right in the middle of a major move, in bringing the business, basically shuttering the plant and moving it to a brand new facility in the Rockwall area. And that was in 1982. And that was a really difficult move, and he wanted me to be part of that. So he asked me to come into the business then, and I did. And I was joined about a year or two later by my brother. And so my brother came into the business as well. And we both worked in the business for about 4 years. And Dad retired in 1987. And he established a management team of my brother and I and another guy a little bit older than us. He was our IT person back in the 80s. And one thing my dad did that was really what I think was very helpful and visionary was he brought in a president and general manager to the business. My brother and I weren't ready to run the business, so he brought in a transition president to run the business for 10 years. And that was really interesting to get a different person's perspective, because we worked for him for 10 years, and then he exited. He came in 87, left in 97, And then that's when my brother and I took over full control of the business.
So your dad's been away from the business for a while now.
My dad?
Yeah.
Yes, for a long time. Yes, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
I think that was a bright move. That's a mistake that I did. When I hired my kids into the company and they said yes, they were tired of me giving instructions as a dad, let alone as a boss in the company. Yep. So I finally decided to hire a president last year, and it's been incredible because number one, now I consider myself the chief advisor officer. I just give advice. Everything is run by the president, but most importantly, they report to him and they're learning a ton. And he knows how to instruct younger kids. So it's been a blessing to have that. So you had that for 2 years.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I mean, I consider this guy a mentor of me. He taught me a lot about the business aspect of business. I knew the plant. I'd been out in the plant, run all the equipment, knew what that was all about, what operations was all about, but I never really got a full introduction to any of the business side of the business, right? Accounting, quoting, sales, estimating, all of that, purchasing, accounting. And he was able to open my eyes and let me and my brother kind of see how all those intertwined within the business. And he was conservative. And so he taught us to be conservative, which being younger and really entrepreneurial, we wanted to go. And he throttled us somewhat, but that throttling was good to allow us to have a balance between being high risk takers and being conservative. And that was really good to see that other side of the business. Yeah.
That is wonderful. Did you guys ever clash as a family?
Did we clash as a family? So that question comes up a lot when people know that I'm in business with my brother. So we spent the first 4 years kind of figuring out what our strengths were. That's how I best can say it. We did clash verbally, and there was a lot of emotion the first 4 years. But once we allowed each other to find our strengths within the company, then that's the direction that we took. I was very strong in sales. I love the accounting aspect of it and the people aspect of the business. My brother was operationally driven. He can still remember part numbers from the 1990s. If you asked him what a certain part number was, he could still remember part numbers. So he's very detailed, very driven from an operations standpoint, very good with people and managing people. And my strengths were on the other side. So once we figured that out, and I guess we had good help kind of putting us in the right seat on the bus, then we began to talk about running the business back to back so that we could see full 360 degrees all the way around us. If we were back to back and had each other's backs, we could see everything that was going on in the business. And that's worked well for us. And that was a good mantra for us.
That is beautiful. And that combination, having an expert in operations and an expert in sales, you have those two, there is nothing but success. I live in a town in Canada where we invented the smartphone. BlackBerry was founded here, and before the iPhone came, BlackBerry was the phone in the world. And it's because this guy, the genius guy, the operations guy, partnered with an amazing sales guy. So they were both co-CEOs, but one was fully operations and innovations, the other one was full sales. And the two together made an explosion of abundance.
Yes, right. And I would describe our journey, if you will, very similar to that. I mean, we've skinned our knees a few times, but from an operations sales standpoint, we've really worked well together for the last 35 years, really well together. It's been a ball having a partner that's also a brother too.
That's fantastic. Yeah, what has been some of the biggest problems you guys encounter as a business, and how do you go through it?
Yeah, so I mean, we've had economic downturns, obviously, and we managed through those. And I would say our biggest change to our business because in our business, people can other companies can buy the same piece of equipment, hire people to run that piece of equipment, and and can compete with us for work and jobs, right? And so we began to become commoditized in the mid 2000s, I would say 2004, 2005, 2006. Our margins were eroding, and right, we had the overseas pressure, but we had a lot of small companies that were coming into the market that just were very, very hard to compete with because they had very low overhead. And so we were being commoditized, and we decided to take a journey down the continuous improvement road. That's where we started, was continuous improvement. We wanted to begin to improve at all levels of the organization. And so we hired a continuous improvement manager that we expected to come into the company and go out on the shop floor and fix all the process problems that we had on the shop floor. That's where we thought it was. And he started in the front office. He started with the order taking. He started with the estimating. He started with the engineering of the products, and that change in mindset of being able to streamline the upfront processes to benefit the back-end processes was huge and critical to us making the improvements that we did within the organization. And then we empowered our team members also and engaged them to begin to work on continuous improvement within the organization. I remember the first, we announced our continuous improvement program in April of 2009. And when we did, I challenged the organization to have 100 continuous improvement ideas, CI ideas, by the end of the year. We finished the year with 187 CI ideas and resulting over in $100,000 worth of savings. Last year, we had 1,800 implemented CI ideas with 200 employees, and which is about 6 or 7 per employee, and resulting in several $100,000 worth of savings.
That is beautiful. And that's a concept that made Toyota so famous and successful, right?
Yes.
One of my last jobs before I opened my own business was I was running the software team for a large laboratory. We did multiple testings for different disciplines. And we went through the Six Sigma training. And it was exactly that, continuous improvement. And we started saving hundreds of thousands of dollars, not only at the lab level, but also in IT. And part of that training is what got me so successful in my own company. Because I was thinking, how can I save money and give a better product, give a better service, while making it less expensive for me to run, right?
Yes. It's amazing. It's amazing the ideas that could come out of your people when you empower them to give you feedback on what's wrong in the business, what could be improved in the business. It's amazing. And I would say that's probably what my brother and I are most proud of, is that change of empowering our employees or our team members to really take control and be responsible for their areas. We talk about their 20 square feet. They're responsible for the inputs and the outputs of their 20 square feet, and they can make improvements to that all the time. And they do. They make lots and lots and lots of improvements. And what we have found is everybody wants to come to work and do a good job, but you have to give them the tools, the responsibility, and the authority to make change within the organization. If they just come to a job and they're told to sit at a machine and work all day at a machine and just do the same work and don't ask any questions and don't give us any ideas, then it becomes almost like a lethargic job. But when you ask them to engage into the business and help the business to grow and prosper and do better, then they're more engaged, they're happier, the morale goes up, the culture begins to change. And that was really big for us, because now we've got 200 people pushing on the big flywheel versus 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of us pushing on the big flywheel. So we've got that continuous momentum that's just spinning all the time. That big flywheel is spinning all the time because there's 200 of us pushing on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's crazy that your first savings were in 2009, right in the middle of the worst financial crisis in recent times, right?
Yes, yes.
Do you allude that specific strategy to save you from going bankrupt during that economic downturn?
I told my brother at that time that if we didn't change the way we were doing business, we'd be out of business by 2020. That was my feeling, because I could see the margins eroding and we just weren't profitable, and we were just squeaking by every year, and it just felt like we were spinning our wheels. And it's been an unbelievable ride up. We've differentiated ourselves in the market. Remember, I told you we were commoditized. We've now differentiated ourselves in the market, just because we mirror very closely. We deal with Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies. And when they come in and they see our continuous improvement program, the culture that we've established, and that it mirrors a lot of what they do and what they're doing. So they see us as a very good fit, because they can talk the language to us. It's increased our quality, it's increased our productivity, it's increased our throughput, our lead times. We've reduced inventories because of continuous improvement. I mean, I can just go on and on and on. Besides profitability, besides a great culture, besides happier team members, there's all these benefits to engaging and empowering your employee base, for sure, for sure.
Beautiful. You know, culture is what a factor that it plays in a company, right? When I realized that my culture was horrible back in 2013, I actually had to go and get a year of training on how to become a good leader first. And then after 2014, after I finished all my training, I started changing the culture, and the company started to rise up. Incredible, right?
Incredible. And when you're an entrepreneur and you grow a business, right? The business needs you badly. Part of what my brother and I tried to do was get to where the business didn't need us. Okay, so as you empower other people, you know, it's a big mindset shift to think, wow, I don't have to do that anymore, because you're wanting to be needed, and you think you're needed in all these different facets of your company. But as you begin to remove yourself and find good people to take that over, and they're responsible, and you've engaged and empowered them to do the job that you did, and you start backing out of it, all of a sudden you've got more free time to look at a bigger picture. From a CEO standpoint, you got time to look at a bigger picture and not be engulfed in the day-to-day minutia of running a business. When you have really good people and you allow them the authority and responsibility to make decisions for that. And that's one of the things we had to figure out was, number one, we had to give them the tools, and then we had to give them how could I say it? We had to give them levels of responsibility and authority. For an example, one of the things that we did when we first started the continuous improvement program was, the employees are like, well, we've never made an improvement in this business. We've never changed anything because we said we've done it this way for 40 years, right? Why would we want to change? When we empowered them, they didn't have the understanding of what responsibility and authority looked like. So the first thing we did was say, if you could do it for $30 or do it in less than 30 minutes, go do it. You don't have to ask anybody. $30 or 30 minutes, you can go and do it and make the decision yourself. So that actually empowered them, that if they saw that let's say a trash can would be better utilized closer to a machine, they had the authority and the responsibility to go move that trash can to where it benefited them to be more productive, more efficient. Make sense?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And
yeah,
that's some of the secrets of success. And that's why exactly most companies fail, because once they reach a certain size,
Yes.
they just rest in their peace, thinking it's going to be profitable forever, and they lose track of what's happening in the market, and they start, instead of improving, they start decreasing in their efficiency until all of a sudden it's too late and they have to close shop.
Yep.
It's so sad. How do you come up with this idea of continuous improvement? Did you go to a course? How do you get enlightened to do that?
So I'd done the research on the Toyota manufacturing system, and I was exposed. In the early 2000s, we were exposed to some other companies that were going through that process, and we got to kind of benchmark them and watch them make improvements to their companies. And so we knew that we felt like continuous improvement would be a differentiator for us, that we could drive out costs or waste, right? Wastes in the business, the 8 wastes in the business. And we felt like if we could drive those wastes out, we could increase our margins and be profitable again. That's where the genesis of the idea came from, was watching others. And then as we began to progress, we did a ton of benchmarking. We would go to non-competitors and we would ask for a plant tour. If we knew somebody was doing it the right way through networking and through different conferences and things that we attended, if we knew they were doing it the right way, we'd ask for a plant tour. And we'd take a small team, we'd go through the plant, we'd take a look at what they did really, really well and go, hey, we could do that too. It might take a little bit of a change, but let's go back and try that. And we kept trying it. It just kept getting better and better and better. So that was really the genesis. And then my brother and I both joined CEO groups, peer CEO groups. As I went into my CEO group, I started conversing with 12 or 13 other CEOs that were running their company totally different than the way I was, the way we were, my brother and I were. And as we began to make that shift, we shared more information, we were more transparent, we were results driven, we were data driven versus being driven by your gut, being driven by what you'd seen in the past. We started getting more data driven, more transparent with numbers and employees, efficiencies, and all that. Started sharing that information. So that, combined with the change in the culture, really created this accountable workforce that was happy. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's an accountable workforce that was actually happy that they were now accountable. They understood what they needed to do every day. And I have a saying to my leadership team. I say, look, at the end of the day, I want every person to go home, pull up in the drive, turn their car off, shut their door, walk in the front door, and what's the first question we always get asked by our significant other? How was your day? I want them to have that answer. I want them to have that answer. I want them to be able to go home and have that answer. That's important to me.
That's beautiful. And
because a happy teammate, a happy team member will have a happy wife, and a happy wife will, it works both ways. Happy family, right?
Yeah, and respecting that balance too. I mean, one of the things that I did very wrong at the beginning is that I was a workaholic all my life. So I was used to working 13, 14 hours a day. So I was forcing my people to do the same. And that only works for so long until they start actually getting mad or quitting or getting depressed. And until I realized, no, I have to figure out a way to actually bring balance to this, because otherwise nothing is going to work. So I was shooting. It started with myself, because I almost lost my wife for working so much, right?
Right.
One of the beautiful things that I hear from you is that realization that to be a real entrepreneur, you need to be obsolete in your business.
Yes.
Because it's a little bit thing that I see in most entrepreneurs, right? They don't know that their job is to work themselves out of the job so they can let others thrive. And that I run 7 different businesses now, because I learned this, I was thankfully, I learned this about 5 years ago, so it took me 5 years to start delegating. So now I have all this time. That's why I do this podcast, to give back to the community, and I still have all these other businesses running.
And it makes David, it makes your company more valuable. If we were for sale, right, and a buyer comes in and sees that the business is running without the ownership or without the CEO, right? It's a really easy purchase. They don't have to worry about the owner getting mad, leaving halfway through his 2-year commitment or whatever, right? And so it makes the company more valuable. And that's one of the things that we've tried to do over the last 10 years is everything that would make our company more valuable in a sale, we try to implement those things into our business. Okay, like a new ERP system. That is such a painful process to go through an ERP implementation. Well, we know that it's going to help us grow to 150 or 200 million, but in revenue, but we needed to do that. And in order for us to be valuable to a buyer, which we're not for sale, but if we were, so we put in the things in place to make us more valuable on the market if we were ever going to. Just using those principles of what makes you more valuable, that's a great way to run a business. It's a great way to run a business. And you get more freedom, like you're seeing. You're getting a lot more freedom. And my brother and I have a lot more freedom to travel now. We're not needed on a day-to-day basis.
And that's why I say I will never retire. For me, the retirement doesn't exist because I'm doing what I love. I have the time that I want while having a cash flow business that is supporting our families. So to your point about selling, I get at least 4 companies a year, those investment bankers say, are you for sale? Are you for sale? I'm like, no. Why would you kill something that gives you passive income? Because that's how I consider my businesses. It's just passive incme. If I'm working a day a week to manage all these companies and they are actually cash flowing properly, why would I give that away? What will millions and millions of dollars in the bank do for me? Well, I can add value to my people and to my clients, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, those millions accumulate over time anyway.
Right? They do, right? In real estate, bank accounts, all kinds of places. They sure do.
So for me, one of the things, I'm loving this conversation, by the way. Thank you, Rob, for being here. One of the things that my grandfather told me back in 2007, I opened my company in 2005. 2007, my grandfather was still alive, and he says, David, there is always going to be more people in the world, but it's the same landmass. So always invest in real estate. So what I started doing is after the company became profitable 3-4 years after, I was taking a big chunk of the net profits and investing it into real estate.
Yep.
I really know that now my real estate portfolio is even more valuable than my business. And that cash flows passive income too, right?
Yes, love it. I love it.
What do you do with your investment strategy?
It's very similar to yours. We continue to invest in real estate, and we've built a nice separate company just in real estate holdings. We've got about 8 different real estate holdings that provide a nice, like you said, a passive income and allow us a little enjoyment too at the same time. So yeah.
That's beautiful. So the bottom line is run a company that doesn't need you, then you are a real entrepreneur.
I would agree. Agree. You're a great leader if you can do that. I think you're a great leader. If you can run a company that doesn't need you, you're a great leader.
The first thing
that's what my brother and I have attempted to do. And we've got a really good team in place right now, like you, that the team is running the business on a day-to-day basis. But I'll tell you, in 2008, I couldn't spell leadership. I literally didn't understand what the concept of leadership is, and today I do. I feel like my brother and I are both really good leaders that have a very good vision of the future, where we want to go. We've got a good mission that drives us towards that vision, and we got a great set of core values that hold everybody in the company, including us, accountable to the mission and the vision.
That's beautiful.
It's just not pictures hanging on the wall. It's being lived every day inside the four walls.
That's another thing that I have to choose. We had so many core values that nobody remembered me. Nobody remembers. I didn't even remember. So the first thing that I do when I know about culture is three core values. Because nobody knows that the core values are the filters or the people who make decisions when the bosses need to watch. And those are several filters, right? So they have to be decided. And John changed that, right?
My story is exactly the same. Our first strategic planning session, the third party that was facilitating it said, "Okay, what are the core values of the company?" And they went around the table, got to me, and I didn't know the 7 core values either. Today we have 5 core values, and it spells BUILT, BUILT. It's the best people, working with urgency, integrity, teamwork, learning.
Beautiful.
Learning teamwork. Sorry, learning teamwork. Those are our 5 core values. And you can walk out on the floor and anybody on the floor can tell you what those 5 core values are.
That's beautiful. In my case, I went even lower. I went to 3. So mine is we have gratitude and respect. So gratitude, we are growth. So we are making growth benefit. And the other one is giving back, contribution. That's giving back to the community, giving back to the community. Because of our gratitude and growth, we are going to give. Those 3, within growth there are so many, but nobody remembers those 3, and now it's not just in the world, like you said. Right?
Yeah.
What's in the future for you, Rob?
So for me, I am exploring that right now. I like I told you earlier before we joined the recording, I'm working on my Spanish. So I'm trying to become fluent in Spanish. About half of our team members are Hispanic descent, so Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and some Venezuelans now. So what it's done for me is allowed me to, instead of having superficial conversations, I'm beginning to dive deeper and have more deeper relational conversations with our employee base, which helps me a lot. I love to coach. I've been coaching some younger kids in the business, and I've coached kids outside the business. Usually between 25 and about 40 years old, there's people that I see that just don't have direction yet and don't understand what a career might look like and how hard you have to work to get a career going and going in the right direction. I've been teaching people how to lead themselves first, and then once they learn to lead themselves, they can be leaders of others. But you have to learn to lead yourself first. And so I've probably had, and these are all gratis coaching sessions. I've offered coaching to I bet 150 people. Just as I meet people in my day-to-day and my travels and things, I've offered coaching to a lot of people. It's amazing how many people don't want coaching. They just don't. But there are a few that have followed up with me, and I've had some really good fun watching these kids grow and mature and understand what being a leader is about. And that's been a lot of fun. So I've been doing that, and I've got my 7th grandchild coming on Friday. And
congratulations!
Seeing him, and I spend time with my grandchildren as well. Do a fair bit of traveling, and then I give inputs back to the company where I need to, as I watch numbers, because I can watch numbers remotely, and then I try to give inputs and advice from my experiences in the past. And any trends that I see looking forward, looking out there, I believe it's part of my job is to look out forward and interpret the outside, and then interpret the outside for the inside of the business, and come back and communicate that inside the business, what the landscape looks like in the future.
That's beautiful. And that part, I can't believe how aligned we are, because that's why I do this podcast, right? I'm just trying to coach people for free, if you will. But also I've been called to form a business group, like you said, your CEO groups. And for me, my own business group, I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian faith. And I'm putting these people together, especially people that are still learning how to do what you and I have discovered, how to have a completely automated company in a way that if you spend a few hours a week, you're done, and you can do it from wherever in the world. I spent 6 months in Guatemala this year, for example.
Wow.
Yeah, like you said, you spent 4 weeks in Ecuador, right?
Right. That's right. That's right.
But I was always watching the business. One of the big problems that I find also is when people get too self-managed, business start going wrong and they don't even notice. So you still have to have an eye on your business. I said there is no such thing as passive income. Passive income for me is something that you spend the minimum amount of time managing it, but you still have to be on top of it, right?
You still have to keep an eye on the numbers for sure. Yes, for sure. Yes.
Rob, if you had access to a billboard in the busiest highway on earth, what would you write in it?
What would I write on the busiest billboard on a highway? On a busy highway, what would I write on a billboard? I guess for me, I'm a Christian too. I would say, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And that is what, where I contribute my motivation, my drive, my intellect, which I don't think I'm a smart person, but I'm very driven. And I have and I can see things. I've got a pretty good vision of where we need to go, and I contribute that to Christ working in my life and directing me and giving me the strength to be who I am.
That's beautiful.
It took me a while to figure out who I was. I told you I couldn't spell leadership 10 years ago, and as I looked at leadership, to me, are leaders born or leaders made? I think it's both. I contribute my DNA is part of my leadership, and I contribute the things that I've learned reading books, listening to podcasts, and interfacing with other leaders. Those two combined have made me the leader who I am today. For an example, my grandfather was a doctor. My other grandfather was a lay minister and a salesperson. I had 2 teachers, or my grandmothers, and so as I began to think about my DNA, what is that? Teachers, doctors, ministers are all helping people, right? So as I changed my leadership style to reach out and help people, that's where my leadership lane was. And connecting with people and listening to people and loving on people, that's where my leadership lane was. And so I really had to think about what leadership meant. And then, of course, I've read a ton of books and I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and I surrounded myself with other leaders that were much, much better to me to grow me and to be able to grow. But I believe leadership is a combination of DNA, what you're really good at, and then learning. Continue to learn.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for saying about your faith, and it's true. What you just said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, is being in my heart since I started this business. You know that it's hard. It's not easy. People look at the success, like people look at the time freedom that the Lord has given us, but they don't realize, what it took to get where we are. And I'll mean it, because you're still in the world, and you still have these terrible things happening in the economy and in the environment, but if you put the rock as your foundation, the angular rock, the rock of Jesus Christ as your foundation, you will fit. Because for me, to live is Christ and to die is gain. Right?
Right.
So, Rob, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to abuse it. We're hitting 24 minutes already. If people would like to find out more about you, or if they would want to get coached by you, I can't believe people say no to your coach. This is like crazy. When I was building my Christian business group, I asked the Lord, should I make it for free? And he said, no. Why? Because if you do it for free, no one will show up. So, now we're charging $28,000 a year. No people are signing up.
Well, David, it's been a pleasure. I'm available on LinkedIn, and my full name is Robert Grand-Lienard. It's a hyphenated last name, and the company name again is Special Products and Manufacturing, and it's SPMFG, www.spmfg.com. And they could find me there. So thank you for the opportunity to talk. I really appreciate it, David.
Wonderful. Rob, thank you so much for your time, and please keep lighting in this world. We need more people like you. We need beacons of light in darkness, and you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you.
Well, I'll reciprocate that. You're doing a fantastic job with this podcast, and I listen to it all the time, and I know people are getting something out of it and taking away and taking back to their companies and to their families and to their homes. It's awesome, man, what you're doing.
Thank you. God bless, Rob. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, David.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.